Welcome to Business Notes, where entrepreneurs tell their stories of struggles, strategies, and successes. I'm your host, Diane Bogino. It's a pleasure to welcome Bill Shackelford to the show today. Bill is the father of 3, grandfather of 10, and the author of the book, Growing Into Your Parenting Role. Bill is also working on his 3rd career. As an engineer, he directed an engineering program for the 4 historically Black colleges in Atlanta and served as a senior analyst at the CIA. In 1988, Bill launched a cultural diversity consulting company that he led for over 30 years and created DEI programs for major public and private sector organizations. In his retirement, he wrote his book on parenting and launched the National Parenting Project, where he conducts workshops, seminars, and retreats for parents and aspiring parents. Now, here's Bill to share important information we can all use to be better parents and better at inclusion. Bill, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's great to see you.
Diane, thanks for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Yes,
I love talking about parenting and my life.
Yes, me too. It's a great topic. So in my introduction of you, I mentioned that you're working on your 3rd career. But before we get into your current career, could you tell us a little bit about your first 2 careers?
Yes. My background, educationally, I have a bachelor's in physics, a master's in nuclear engineering. And that kind of laid the foundation for me starting off my career work. I started as an engineer. My first big job was working for the CIA as a senior analyst, and loved the job, hated the cost of living in DC. We were there for a few years, moved from Atlanta to DC to take the job. And the cost of living in Atlanta was great, got up there, and the cost of living was going up a lot faster than my salary was going up. And so we decided quickly, we got to make our way back to somewhere else. And so we stayed there for a few years and made our way back to Atlanta. I took a job in Atlanta working for the Black colleges here. We have Clark, Morehouse, Sportsman, and Spelman. They had a joint engineering program with Georgia Tech, which I directed for 6 years. Loved that job. I could have stayed there forever. It really was a great, great career move for me and allowed me to do a lot of things. One thing I did while I was there, a lot of the companies that were coming down to recruit our students, engineering firms, were struggling trying to figure out how to recruit minorities and females. And so I counseled them and engaged with them, gave them strategies and tips and tools. And over time, I figured out, you know what? I should be doing this as a full-time job. And so I really launched the idea of me moving to my next career, which was the diversity consulting. So it started as recruiting consulting, went quickly from recruiting consulting for engineering firms to all kinds of firms, and then from recruiting to all kinds of diversity issues. And so that was the platform that I used for 30 years doing diversity and inclusion work for corporate, government, nonprofit organizations, and served me very, very well. It paid all my bills, it bought my cars, put my kids in college. I mean, yeah, it worked out very, very well for me. So those are the first 2 careers there. And one kind of built upon the other, I would say.
Just while we're on that topic of inclusion, what recommendation would you make to organizations today that you think is missing in terms of DEI?
I had a client, the very last client I had when I was doing DEI work, right before I retired. They said all the right things. They wanted to do it. They want to do it long term. Again, you can't do it overnight. It takes time to do it. So we set up on a 3-year plan to really address diversity and inclusion, doing the cultural audit, the assessment up front there, employee survey, training, the whole 9 yards. We ended our relationship after about 6 months. We ended it because they were not ready to hear the bad news. When we finished the assessment and gave them the feedback on the issues and concerns employees had, they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to share with the employees. They were just not ready for that level of disclosure. So the advice I give is, if you're going to do it right. Number one, it's going to take some time to do it and do it right. And 2, you have to understand you're not getting everything right now. If you were, you wouldn't need me or a company like IEC. If you got it all right, then no problem. But employees are going to have some issues or concerns that you're going to have to address. have to step back from your understanding that we are the perfect company, perfect organization. I understand there are some things we can do to get better. That's my main advice is give it time and be ready for bad advice. But understand your consultant is there for you. I mean, we don't go there with an agenda. We just go there to find the facts. That was my job. Whatever they told me is what I tell you. I'm not coloring it anyway in terms of my opinions about it. This is what they said, your employees.
So going from a career in engineering to launching a diversity consulting company is kind of an unusual step. So what made you think you could make that move successfully? And what did you learn from that move?
I think in terms of what made me comfortable in making a move, I've always liked opportunities, stepping into challenges. I remember during my diversity work, I learned that the Chinese have a symbol for change. And the symbol includes two parts. One is opportunity and one is threat. I've always kind of leaned into the opportunity piece there, in terms of change. I see it as a way of stepping up to the plate, showing my talents, doing something different, showing the world, hey, look at what I did, kind of thing. I pat myself on the back when it's all done. So that's the challenge for me that I love. So, and I've kind of built my life around philosophies that passed on to me from my father that I've kind of internalized and made my own. I think some of you will probably recognize the saying, where there's a will, there's a way, the old saying. Well, my first name is William. So I personalized that saying for myself by saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And so I've always felt, no matter what it is, I can make this happen. I can make this work. And so that has driven me to challenge myself on things that others probably have stepped away from and said, nah, I can't do that. So I love that. The other thing is in terms of what did I learn? I learned another really life lesson in doing that work, making that change happen. That life is not a series of just independent events that happen to you and around you and for you. It's all connected in some way. And so I've put myself, another saying that I have is, everything I've done in life prepared me for what I'm doing today and what I will do tomorrow. And so the work I did in my engineering profession there with the engineering firms laid the foundation for me to start my consulting company. So I didn't throw my engineering degree away. People ask me all the time, well, did you just throw your engineering degree away by going to diversity? I said, no, I leveraged it fully because I used that to identify my first client base. Our first client base was all engineering science firms, many of them I worked with when I was director of the engineering program. So everything I've done has built upon itself to create the next level of success I had in a similar area or all totally different area there. That's what I learned primarily, that really your life really is a series of, done properly, if you're on a path and you stay on that path, that everything that you do on that path will prepare you for the next step along the way on that same path.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people don't realize that, but it's right on target. Yeah. So I know your parenting book is based on personal experiences with you and your wife, Renee. And what makes your book unique? And tell our audience where they can get a copy.
There are two basic things I think that make it unique. Most parenting books, they start and think about parenting as how do you make this child behave? To do what you want to do, to teach them behaviors and values and all of that. That's all extremely important. But being an engineer and an analyst, everything with us is a process. And so when I first started thinking about writing a parenting book, my first thought was, what is the process for parenting? And when I thought about that, what I saw was parenting starts long before the child is born. You go back several steps and it starts when you first pair up with somebody. Even before that, it starts with you yourself, who you are. And so we looked at the parenting process and divided it into 4 stages. 4 stages of parenting, with the third stage being the one where most books focus. But the first stage is one that talks about laying a good foundation for parenting. The second stage talks about preparing for the child. The third stage is raising the child. And the fourth stage is making parenting life memorable. So 4 unique stages. Again, stepping back, way back to the very first part of engaging with someone to start a life together that will lead to children down the road.
Bill, that's so impressive that people should start before they even really think about having a child. And let me ask you, why do you think there aren't more programs in school about parenting?
I wrote that in my book, that being an engineer and a scientist, say you learn about calculus. I did, everyone does in the math class, trigonometry, calculus, algebra, trig, etc. How often do I use calculus in my daily life? Never. But we learn nothing about parenting, and we use that all the time. Everyone needs that. I have no idea why we don't spend more time on parenting. When I was in school, the parenting related stuff was home economics. All they taught you, how to go in the kitchen and cook a meal. And that was for the ladies. Hey, you did home economics, I did something different. I did sports related stuff. But that's all you did on parenting. That is nowhere near preparing people for parenting life. I really, Diane, if I knew the answer, I would tell you, but I have not found the answer yet. I've looked for it. I don't know why I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. When I left high school, I could put a zipper in a skirt, boy, but I didn't know anything about kids.
Right.
I mean, I came home and I put my daughter on the bed and I thought, well, what do I do with this kid? You know?
If you could sew a zipper across the mouth, you could just sit up, right?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to do that still. Yeah, it's really interesting how you know, I love America, but our values are really messed up. I'm telling you. Yeah. Yeah, really. So, Parenting Enrichment Training Program is the name of your program.
Right.
This has the 4 stages, so a person can jump in anytime.
Anytime.
And I did go into a program when I became a parent because I recognized the difficulty I was having. Thank goodness. And you also start with an assessment. What does that assessment reveal about a person? What do they learn?
The assessment part really is built into the book. It's the second part of the uniqueness about the book, the approach we took to parent training, and also the parenting book. Having a background in diversity, I had to do a lot of work in terms of training clients. I did a lot of preparing myself for a training world. I joined ASTD, which is now ATD, American Society of Training and Development. I was very much involved with them. I was a program manager at one point in time. I was the president of the chapter here in Atlanta, Jumbo chapter, large chapter. So really immersed myself in training. So when I wrote the book, I used those training skills to develop all kinds of tools and assessment pieces. Chapter by chapter, you find these assessments in there. So the training, the assessment piece we do for the training really kind of pulls from several of the training tools we have in the book and put this together to help our parents understand where you are right now in terms of your parenting knowledge and skills and understanding, and where you want to be down the road, so we can see what we need to do to get you there. So it does allow you to kind of upfront assess, I need more of this and less of that, so now I can pick and choose what pieces of the training I need to do. If I'm doing the self-study, or if I need to do the entire whole course, we can do it as well. And the training right now was designed to be online training. Was designed 2 years ago during COVID, so that was sort of the model we had to kind of design with. But we're moving as we speak back to our original model, which is live sessions, doing workshops, seminars, and retreats. Retreats being a 1.5-day, 2-day kind of program on site, where you can bring your spouse, bring your partner with you, and immerse yourself in the idea of becoming better parents.
Great. And you can get a certificate at the end of the training. So you can hold that up to your kids and say, see, I am a good parent.
Exactly.
I love that.
That's the test. See, I'm there.
That's all right.
Yeah.
As you know, Bill, I help people build better careers, and kids start out at a very young age wanting to be different things, a ballerina, a fire person, whatever. As parents respond to these dreams that children have about their career in grammar school and high school, how should they respond, and should they be responded to differently at these different stages?
I think your question is correct. Different stages is the actual right thing to ask. The very, very young kids, they will be inspired by something they saw, what they read, what you read to them sometimes, and that's what they want to be or do. So there's no real rhyme or reason sometimes to why they chose that as their chosen future profession. As they get into the middle school kind of age group, they're more clear about what they see that they love, what they see that they like, what they see that they hate. And so when they see those things they like or love, encouraging them, inspiring them, helping them kind of grow those skills really does help. What we did with our kids when they got to a point where they had an understanding what they wanted to do, we just encouraged them. If they wanted to do ballet, we put them in ballet class. If they wanted to do flute lessons, we got flute lessons for them. And allow them to explore different avenues, but at the same time, you want to make sure you educate them about those professions so they know more than what it means just to have a flute or have ballet. Ballet requires a lot of attention, a lot of discipline, a lot of training over an extended period of time. You don't get rich overnight, hard work, hours, tens of hours, in the gym, just practicing. If you're not ready for that, you just want to do 1 hour a day and call it quits, you're not ready for ballet. And so helping them understand profession, taking them to professional events where they can see people at that next level or several levels above where they are, be it that basketball or football or baseball for the guys, and get them to see, hey, you know what? I like this, but that's hard work. You gotta hit really hard out there. How much you really want that every day? So just encouraging them, I think, is the main thing you want to do. Don't assume you know better than they do about what they want to do, because we do it all the time. You really should be or whatever. No, let them find their way and encourage them along the way.
Yeah. So let's say your child is in college. I know you're 3, right? All went to college, am I correct?
All went to college, yes.
So let's say, okay, they're living in your house, you're paying for their college, and they change their major a couple of times. How can you best support them and guide them? Because there's a lot of pain in that.
Right. Let me step back one step, and it kind of sort of answers your question, but not fully. When our kids were in elementary school, as they graduated in middle school, we had a thing that Renee and I had decided early on. And we told our kids, each one of them, individually, collectively, that when you finish high school, you can't stay here. You can go to the Army, you can go to college, you can go to the military, you can get a job, but you can't stay here. So they all knew that they had 3 different paths they could take, and none of them included staying home. And all of them, again, chose to go to college and to start their own career and kind of moved out afterwards. If you have that same kind of understanding when it comes to college, I'll support you in your first major, your second major, but when you make that change, make sure you understand this needs to be one you really thought out and you've planned for, because the third one's on you. If that's clear when they first go to college,
I love it.
And they will be very mindful, very deliberate in how they make those changes happen. It's not unusual to change a major.
Yeah.
What is unusual is for a parent to allow them to change their major 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times with no cost or penalty to it. At some point, they need to make better decisions, and they won't do that until you force them to do that. Yeah.
Well, you're smart. We're smart in starting your children out young and teaching them, I'm sure, respect at an early age, which I think parents fail to do.
Right.
And, both my current husband and I, we were not allowed to go back home either once we left. Right. That was it. You sank or swam,
Right.
That was it. But we learned how to make it on our own, for sure.
Right. And we also made sure that our kids had a stake in their education. The way we did it, we told them, again, I'll pay for a third, myself personally. Your mother, Renee, will pay for a third. The other third is on you. It can be scholarships, grants, loans, work study, whatever, but that third is on you. So they had a stake in it. If they got a scholarship, great, no problem. No. And all 3 of them got scholarships, to pay for their third, and most of ours as well. But they knew that they had a stake in it. So if they failed, they were failing, and they had to pay a price themselves personally, as well as the parents paying a price.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bill, where can people get a copy of your book, and what is the best way for them to get in touch with you to get into your program?
The book is available at Amazon, and it's also available on our website. Either one of those 2 places you can get it. To get in touch with me, National Parenting Project is the parent organization under which all my work is done. And so to find me, www.nationalparentingproject.com is the easiest way to get to me, everything we do. Email address, if you know the name of my book, Growing Into Your Parenting Role, email address is growingtoyourparentingrole@gmail.com. So either one of those two will get to me directly.
Great. And Bill, we were talking before we started about how parents, even though they didn't like the way they were raised, they wind up doing the same thing their parents did. So what last words would you leave with our audience today?
I think one of the things I said in my book, I was actually, when I was writing the book, I would take trips and go off different places to have some time alone to kind of focus and write. And most of the time I went to the Georgia mountains, which is about an hour and a half away from where I live. And would sit someplace and write. And one evening I went down to get some dinner. There was a little restaurant, bar kind of place. I sat at the bar eating, and a lady sat next to me. And I was talking about what I was doing and writing the book. And I was mentioning work I was doing on one chapter. And I turned to her, she's sitting there crying. And I asked her, what's going on? And she said, I failed my kids, based on what you were saying here. I've really failed my kids. I did all the wrong things. And I said, you know what? That's not the message I want you to walk away with. So I talked with her and counseled her. And one of the things I said there, I put it in my book, and I said, it doesn't matter what your upbringing was, what your life experience was when parents, how many issues and problems you may have had along the way, challenges you may have done, what you think you may have done wrong at this point in time. You can be a better parent. You can be a great parent starting today. And that was the message I wanted her to walk away with, and the audience as well to walk away with, that it doesn't matter what your life experience has been to this point. You can start today to be a better parent, to be a great parent. It's possible. Every one of us can be a great parent with the right tools. One of the things, I have 10 grandkids, which is mentioned, which is a large number, and they range in age from ones that have completed college to those that are just going into middle school, just going into elementary school. And one of my more senior grandkids, she was in high school, was talking with me about not being able to make good decisions. And she had gotten chewed out by her mother for something she did, which was not quite right. And we talked about it. I had invited her to come by. And when she came by, she sat down, we talked a bit, and I asked her about decision making. She gave me an example, asked a second example, and I showed her a tool that she could use to make better decisions. And her eyes lit up, because what she discovered was it wasn't that she couldn't make good decisions. That was a flaw within her. She didn't have the right tools to make good decisions. Once she had those tools, she could do better. And so my advice to parents and to kids as well is, work to get the right tools. Our book, our training, and other training like this will provide you the tools you need to really be successful in this thing called parenting, or growing into that parenting role. So with that, you can make it. And it gives you the confidence you can do it as well, which is important.
That's right. That's everything we do. Making decisions is learned, and we do have to have the right tools. So I appreciate that message.
Right.
Bill, thank you so much. This has been a joy for me, and you've brought the audience some very good information we all can use. Thank you.
Well, Diane, it's been my pleasure. Thank you again for inviting me to be here. And I hope the audience does take away some things they can use. And if they didn't get enough, you can always buy my book or come to our training as well. Either one of those two would definitely allow you to grow your parenting skills. And it's not just growing the skills, but also growing the confidence in your role as a parent. Thanks again, Diane.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
Thank you for watching Business Notes. We've been speaking with Bill Shackelford, engineer, author, and entrepreneur. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, bringing you business ideas you can bank on.